Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Ganana Antva Ganapatigum Avamahe Kavim Kavina Mupamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspatana Stunvanuti Dasadanam Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebir Vajinibati Dhinama Vidyavat. Om Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Guru Yo Namaha. Om Shanno Mitrasham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryamam Shanna Indro Brahaspatihi Shanno Vishnu Durukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Rutam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaramavatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Bhadram Karne Bhishrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashye Makshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangai Istushtruvagum Sastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vruddhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishvavedaha Swasti Nastarksho Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brahaspatir Dadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Yasya Sannidhi Matrena Sarve Shishyascha Sevakaha Karmakshetre Pravartante Chinmayam Tam Namamyaham Chinmayam Tam Namamyaham. Shuklam Varadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye. Vāgīṣādhyā sumanasah sarvārthānāmupakrame yam natvā kritakrityāsyu tam namāmi gajānanam Vakratunda mahākāya koti surya samaprabha nirvignam kuru me deva sarvakaryeshu sarvada Saraswati namastubhyam varade kamarupine vidyarambham karishyami Siddhir bhavatu me sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwarah Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Vyasam Vasishtanaptaram Shakte Pautramakalmasham Parasharatmajam Vande Shukatatam Taponidhim Vyasaya Vishnurupaya Vyasarupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahmanidaye Vasishtaya Namo Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Brahmanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatetam Gagana Sadrusham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Sadgurum Tam Namami Sadgurum Tam Namami Hari Om everybody. We will just do a quick recap in the last 3 sessions what we have done. So far we have learned several aspects of our culture. Our Adhyatmika Samskriti, we started off with that. Our spiritual culture, our Bhautika Samskriti, our materialistic culture, and it's all about pursuit of happiness. And most importantly, we started off with Shreya, Preya, Viveka. Then in the second module, we learned a little bit about the classification of our Shastras, Shruti, Smriti, Itihasa, Purana, and Vedas as the basis of our culture, which is our source book. We call it the Apurusheya Grantha, not a man-made entity. We talked a little bit about the 4 Vedas, Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvana Veda. We talked about the 6 limbs of Veda, Shad Angas. We talked a little bit about the Upavedas, like Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, etc. We talked about three subdivisions of Vedas: the Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda, and Jnana Kanda. And we went through the rationale as to why we have three divisions of Vedas. And their main purpose is that of Chitta Shuddhi, purification of mind, Chitta Ekagrata, concentration of the mind, leading to the knowledge of the self. In the last week, module 3, we learnt about the Karma Siddhanta, which is the basis for reincarnation. We learnt about the types of karmas, how to divinize our actions, how to turn karma to karma yoga. We talked about kayaka karma, vachika karma, manasika karma, how we can do puja, japa, chintana. We learned through this how to divinize our emotions, making the mind single pointed towards the Lord, to gain that chitta ekagrata, leading us from saguna sakara Brahma to nirguna nirakara Brahma. So, in the last few classes, we've been talking about purity of mind, Chitta Shuddhi, attained through Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas, through karmas. And single pointedness, Chitta Ekagrata, attained through the Upasana portion of the Vedas. We have covered those two aspects so far. Now what happens at this stage, when the mind is purified and single pointed, the seeker begins to ask the questions like, what is the purpose of this life? What is my true nature? What is the source for this entire creation? The quest for knowledge begins. He approaches a teacher, which we call it as Guru Upasatti in Vedanta. Then the Guru imparts the knowledge of the self. This self-knowledge is the subject matter of the third and the last portion of the Vedas. They are also called as Upanishads. It is also called as Vedanta. Veda plus Anta literally means the concluding portion of the Vedas, but refers to the end goal indicated by the Vedas, which is Brahman. Vede siddhyati siddhanta iti Vedanta. The philosophical conclusions arrived at by and in the Vedas. That is Vedanta. They are also called as Upanishads. Let's go through and analyze the definition of Upanishads a little bit. It's broken into three words: Upa plus Ni plus Shad. Upanishad. Upa means near. Like when we said Upasana, sitting near the idol, sitting near your ideal. Upa means near. Ni, nischayena, with determination. This denotes, why do you need to sit at the teacher's feet? You see the standard picture. This denotes the flow of knowledge from the higher to the lower. We have other meanings. Gati. For a mumukshu, Brahma gamayati. It leads him to Brahman. There's another meaning of avasadhana. Loosens the karma bandhana. So Upa plus Ni plus Shad is Upanishad. The meaning Shad is to destroy or to lead. When the student receives this knowledge from the teacher, his ignorance of the real nature of the world and his own self that he had is destroyed. The wrong notions are destroyed. Therefore, the purpose of the Upanishad is Ajnana Nasha, the destruction of ignorance. It means that Upanishad is not just a mere book, but imparts the highest knowledge, the knowledge of the self. Let us dwell on the meaning of the Upanishad a little more. When we say Upa, near, nischayena, meaning sit below with determination. From the Guru to the Shishya, the knowledge flows, indicates a very reverential attitude of the Shishya, disciple. Disciple is one who subjects to discipline, who physically sits below the level of the Guru. We will study more of this meaning when we study texts like Viveka Chudamani or Kathopanishad. We will dwell into more of this meaning actually. So the definition of this indicates a meaning that the student has developed sufficiently good qualities of the heart and the mind with a burning desire for knowledge. Sadhana chatushtaya sampanna. Then he approaches the teacher, sits at his feet, turns his or her attention to the teachings given by the master. And then he is the best to absorb, practice the teachings. Why sit at teacher's feet, if one were to ask? Just like there is a flow of water, is natural, effortless when it flows from higher to the lower than in the other direction. Sitting at the feet of the teacher is a symbolic representation of the student that he is looking up to the teacher with respect, with reverence. So Upa plus Ni plus Shad, which is Upanishad, leads this student towards Brahman. the ultimate reality. So in all the 4 Vedas, there are 3 sections: the Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda, and Gnana Kanda. Then how many Upanishads are there? Some are found in the mantra portion of the Vedas, some are in the Aranyaka portion. There are 1,179 known Upanishads. 21 of them are in Rig Veda, 108 of them in Yajur Veda, 1,000 of them in Samaveda, which is the largest compilation, and the 50 in Atharvana Veda. Traditionally, it is considered that 108 Upanishads are authoritative and important. Of these, 10 are considered as major Upanishads. There is nothing major or minor about the subject matter of the Upanishads. In all the Upanishads in the Vedas, the knowledge of the self that is taught is the same. Jiva Brahma Aikya, that oneness of Jiva and Brahma, that knowledge of the self is all the same. Once a devotee asked our Pujya Guruji, Swami Tejomayananji, how many Upanishads do I need to study in order to realize? And those of us who met Swami Tejomayananji, his simplicity in his answer was very simple. He said, how many mirrors do you need to see yourself? Just one is enough. So the 10 major Upanishads are Aittariya Upanishad, Keno Upanishad, Bruhadaranyaka Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, Ishavasya Upanishad, Prashno Upanishad, Kato Upanishad, and Taittariya Upanishad. These are considered major because Adi Shankaracharya ji, Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji, has written detailed commentary, Bhashya, on these Upanishads. That is why they are considered as major Upanishads. Although Vedanta, originally, is known to be oral wisdom, which is enshrined in the Upanishads. There are 3 accepted sources from different schools of Vedanta. They derive their authority from. They are commonly known as Prasthanatraya. Because even when you board the aircraft, the first thing they tell you is where the exits are. The air hostess comes in with the mask and this thing to show and how to buckle up. And then first thing they tell you is how to exit in case we need to exit. Same way, these 3 Prasthanatrayi show us how to get out of this samsara. Upanishads, which is the subject matter for today, they are called as Shruti Prasthana, meaning the knowledge with an emphasis on the Shruti aspect of it. Shruti being the Vedas and the Upanishads. Then you have Brahma Sutra as Nyaya Prasthana, meaning with a knowledge with an emphasis on logic. And Bhagavad Gita is considered as Smriti Prasthana, meaning knowledge with an emphasis on the Smriti. So Upanishad, Brahma Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, these three are called Prasthanatrayi. Then there are different schools within the Hindu philosophy. These are called as darshanas. They're independent of each other, but each of them accept the Vedas as scriptural authority. These are Astika darshanas. Let us talk a little bit about each of them. Nyaya by Gautama Rishi deals with the Hindu system of logic. Vaisheshika by Kannada Rishi deals with the structure of the universe and atomic theory. Sankhya philosophy by Kapila Muni deals with relationship between Prakriti and Purusha, the nature and the spirit, as the cause of the world. Then you have Yoga Shastra from Patanjali Muni, dealing with gaining of the mastery of oneself through transformation of the inner equipment within us. Then you have Mimamsa of Jaimini Muni, dealing with practice of rituals, Karma Kanda, popularly called as Purva Mimamsa. Then comes our Vedanta. It is also called as Uttara Mimamsa by Krishna Dvaipayana Badarayana Vyasa. It's not like first name, last name is Vyasa, things like that. Krishna Dvaipayana Badarayana Vyasa is his full name. Or Veda Vyasa Muni. Deals with philosophical and theological views of the Upanishads. Now, how do we reconcile so many different schools of philosophy and different approaches to truth within one religion, one might ask? The apparently divergent scriptures have given different teachers at different periods of time to suit the different types of students at that period of time. For example, Bhagavan Buddha, he came at a time when the ritualists had become extreme views, and he had to come at a particular period of time, denounce the Vedas, and called it Ahimsahi Paramo Dharmaha. He just preached non-violence. And each time a different teacher has come. At that time, later part, Adi Shankaracharya ji came, revived the Hindu Renaissance. Amid this differences, types of philosophy, differences in diversity, one finds that Although there seems to be different paths, but the goal is the same. Amrita Bindu Upanishad says, Gavam aneka varnanam kshiram yapaya ekata ekavarnata. Cows are in different colors. But the milk from cows, one color is white, one is black, one is other. But the color of the milk is always white. Kshiravat pashyate gnanam. So the intelligent seeker should regard this knowledge as milk. The sources of such knowledge are the cows. So in that shloka, I just wanted to bring this to drive that point that different darshana vichara, when we do, the truth is the one. And the Vedanta itself, within that, has different schools of thought. There are 6 Vedantic schools of thought. Mind you, all claiming Upanishad as pramana, authority. Advaita of Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji, Vishishtadvaita of Sri Ramanujacharya ji, Dvaita of Sri Madhvacharya ji, Shuddha Advaita of Sri Vallabhacharya ji, Dvaita Dvaita of Nimbakacharya ji, Achintya Beda Abeda Vada of Jiva Goswami. When we can dwell on these type of topics when we under the banner of Darshana Vichara, when we study a few texts, understand the basic tenets of Vedanta, we can engage in those schools of thoughts as to how they analyze. That leads us to the topic of what are these great declarations or Mahavakyas, that and where are they found in the Vedas? Remember, we are in the Jnana portion of the Vedas. So the quintessence of Vedanta, whenever in management you provide an executive summary, we talk about a one-pager. Our rishis were smarter than that. They gave us one-liners. These are great declarations or Mahavakyas, as it is called. There are numerous Mahavakyas, but the 4 sample ones are popularly known Mahavakyas, and each one is picked as a sample from each of the Vedas. So if somebody asks you how many Mahavakyas are there, the correct response is there are many, but 4 sample Mahavakyas are popular. Though every Mahavakya is complete in itself and has the potential to grant liberation to a fit student, a Uttama Adhikari. A storyline to connect the teachings in the four Mahavakyas, to provide a roadmap to the sadhaka, to the seeker. Let us go through that. The first Mahavakya is Pragnanam Brahma. Consciousness is Brahman. It is from Aitariya Upanishad, derived from Rigveda. What it does, it declares that consciousness, this spiritual core of our individual personality and the entire this thing that enlivens each of us, is the same all-pervading consciousness in all beings and things. This is called as a Lakshana Vakya, a statement of definition. Then comes Tat Tvam Asi. You are that thou art. From Chandogya Upanishad, derived from Samaveda. What happens here? The disciple hears this Vakya. Actually, this is given by Uddalaka Muni in Chandogya Upanishad to his own son, who is the disciple in that Upanishad, called Shweta Ketu. He gives that Upadesha 9 times in that Upanishad. And he says, and then the disciple, after reflecting on Guru's teaching, still has doubts. After hearing Pragnanam Brahma, he goes back. At that time, he comments saying, Tattvamasi, you are that. That is the second Mahavakya. That is called as Upadesha Vakya, a statement of instruction. Guru tells the disciple that he is Supreme Brahman, not this limited being that he imagines himself to be. The truth that the disciple is seeking is none other than his own self, and is found to be within. This has to be realized through self-inquiry, vichara. That leads us to the third sample Mahavakya called Aham Brahma Asmi. I am Brahman. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, derived from Yajurveda. Now the disciple has reflected on Guru's Upadesha Vakya, has gone through meditation. After overcoming his or her habitual thinking or notion that he is the limited being, etc., habitual thinking of the truth, something other than himself. comes back to the teacher, filled with his intimate experience of the truth. The nature of this Mahavakya is a statement of Anubhava, experience. So it is called as Anubhava Vakya, experiential knowledge, experiential statement. That leads us to the final fourth Mahavakya, I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. From Mandukya Upanishad, derived from Atharvana Veda. So at this phase, once the disciple is established in his true nature, Brahmanishta, the Guru advises him to constantly revel and abide in that self-knowledge. The nature of this abidance is expressed in this Mahavakya, I am Atma Brahma. Almost sounds English. I am Atma. I am Atma. Which is a Anusandhana Vakya. A statement of constant practice and reflection and abidance. The word Brahman is not very common word, but God is. Once a devotee asked Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, asked him, can you show me God? Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi said, I can show you, but I don't know if you will be able to see him. This man felt very insulted and said, if you can show him, I can see him. I have eyes, you know. What he did not realize is that one needs more than these physical eyes to see God. One must have that true sukshma buddhi for this true knowledge. But the man insisted, show me. Then Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi sat in front of him, raised one finger and started moving it from one side to the other, one side to the other. 5, 10, 15 minutes went by, and the man was sitting there expecting some sort of vision of the Lord. Finally, the man asked, I thought you were going to show me God. Where is he? You have not shown me anything. Bhagavan said, I've been showing you God for the last 15 minutes. What is this? The finger moving back and forth. If I cut the finger and place it on the table, will it move on its own? We are talking about that life principle, that Chaitanya. That life principle in Upanishad is called as supreme reality. That consciousness, the Chaitanya Swarupa, that absolute, that Atma Vishaya, that Atman, Brahman, Om, that pure awareness, unconditioned awareness, that pure consciousness, that is the reality that we are seeking. So, in the Upanishads, this life principle that is said to be the source of all creation. It is our true self. Kenopanishad has the best definition for that reality. Shrotasya shrotam manaso manoyat vacho havacham sahu pranasya pranaha chakshushushchakshurati muchyadiraha pretasman lokad amruta bhavanti. That which is not seen, but because of which the eyes are able to see. That which cannot be described by words, but because of which our speech is able to describe other things. That which is not heard by the ears. That is why we call it Atindriya Vishaya. That which is beyond the senses. That which is beyond, that can be perceived by the senses. So because of which ears are able to hear, that is Brahman. Let's take the electric bulb as an example. We can see many objects in the room because of the illumination, but not electricity itself. That because of which there is light in the bulb, we call that electrical energy. Yet the light bulb itself is not electricity. Our Puja Gurudev, Swami Chinmayanandaji, used to jokingly say, electricity hi bulbastaha, because of which there is life in the body. That is called Brahman, the self, the very existence. That cannot be denied by anyone. Brahman is the origin of all this creation and also seated in our own hearts of all beings as consciousness. To know that this consciousness is me, which is appearing as the total universe. At that point, our finitude, our limitations all end. This, in short, is the subject matter of the Upanishads, the Gnana portion of the Vedas, which is called as Vedanta. It deals with that knowledge of Brahman, also known as Atman, which dispels the ignorance about our true self. This knowledge is called as Brahma Gnana, Brahma Vidya, Adhyatma Vidya. So let us recap our journey so far in these sessions as to why I should study this Vedanta. You know, all living beings, from a single-celled amoeba to a multicellular organism to a highly evolved human being, all are in pursuit of that happiness. In other words, in our worldly pursuit, in order to eke out a momentary happiness, we seek happiness outside. We change the place, desha, we change time, kala, we change objects, vastu, we change people, vyakti. This, in short, is a paristhithivadi. He or she realizes at some point that the paristhiti has changed, but not the manasthiti, not the state of mind. 99% of all human population engages in artha and kama. Very few in dharmic actions. So upon deeper inquiry, we explore and become a karmavadi. The next step is to ask at that phase, why am I here? Who am I? During this process of inquiry, he or she realizes that all worldly pursuits is filled with defects. It has a beginning and an end, adi and an anta, finite. They dissipate our energy in that pursuit. Gives me a sense of limitation, finitude. They are riddled with pain in the end. No matter what we do, it leaves with a sense of incompleteness. I wish I had this one thing more. So dissatisfaction guaranteed. That is our engagement with the world. So in that pursuit of atyantika dukkha nivrutti, revulsion to sorrow, and paramananda prapti, I want to get rid of my sorrow. I want to seek happiness forever. Now the person realizes through this inquiry that the root cause of the problem is erroneous notion that I am the limited being. But the desire to pursue happiness persists. Everything in creation is in that state of agitation until it reaches its natural state. But the desire to pursue happiness persists. For example, if I heat water or freeze water, it is in a state of flux until it reaches its natural state of being cool. Therefore, in order to pursue moksha, liberation from cycle of births and deaths called samsara, no pursuit of finite object, no pursuit of any given situation can give me infinitude. The only solution or cure to my chronic disease of ignorance is the knowledge of the true self that Upanishads can give. Therefore, only Upanishads or Vedanta, which deals with this subject matter, which deals with the study of the self, gives me liberation. So the goal from Manava to Madhava, from Bandha to Buddha, is possible through the study of Vedanta. That brings us to the topic, symbolism topic today, of why we go to a temple, why we burn camphor, and so on. The temple has a deeper significance in our culture. Temple structurally represents that of a human body. Just like my mind and intellect, or the heart in which the Lord resides, deep inside the temple is the Garbhagruha, the inner sanctorum of the temple, where the Lord's idol presides in that temple. Especially in the South Indian construction, the whole complex is huge on the outside, called Prakara. And inside the Garbhagruha, usually there is no electricity. It is usually kept dark. And when you go near the altar, the priest will hold a camphor light, and by which you can see the form of the Lord. So what is that significance of burning that camphor? That camphor offered by the priest is nothing but solidified fragrance. When it is burnt, no residue is left behind. It is a process of total sublimation. That fragrance in Sanskrit is called vasana, the negative tendency in our mind. The ego, the likes, the dislikes, the raga, dvesha, the impurities. This lighting of the camphor symbolically represents the kindling of that fire of knowledge within us. And then you say, ego is not my amigo, so I have to let it go. So in that light of knowledge, we hold the Bhagavan in our hearts. At the end of the ritual, we show that light to everyone, and they put the hand over that flame and touch their eye. That symbolically represents that we keep that light with which we saw the Lord. And when the plate is passed around, you have gained that greater vision which makes you generous. And that is when you donate the money to the temple. So, in our symbolism topic, we covered the burning of the camphor. So, the key takeaways for today, we learned about our Jnana Kanda portion, the knowledge portion of the Vedas. It is also called as Upanishads. It is called as Vedanta. We learned the meaning of Upanishad, the significance of Guru Shishya Parampara. We learned a little bit about Shad Darshanas, 6 schools of Vedantic thought. We learned a little bit about Prasthana Trayi, the Shruti Prasthana, the Smriti Prasthana, and the Nyaya Prasthana. We learned the story of the 4 sample popular Mahavakyas, leading to the ultimate reality, Brahman. And in our symbolism topic, we learned a little bit about the temple and the burning of the camphor and the light of knowledge. With that, we will conclude today's session. In the next several classes, I'll talk a little more about Panchakosha Viveka, Shariratraya Viveka, Avastatraya Viveka, topics of Maya, the Sadhana Chatushtaya, etc., etc. And tune in, same time, same place. Let's do the concluding prayers. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om asato ma satgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.